of the questions that I get frequently, because I'm a licensed attorney and because I write for publications that discuss firearms, one of the questions I get is about self-defense and what constitutes self-defense. Well, that's beyond the subject of one video, but in this video we're going to talk about one of the key elements, which is a present, imminent, deadly threat. More on that in just a moment. So you're in your house at night and you hear noise coming from downstairs. You grab your handgun, you go downstairs, and when you get to the bottom of the stairs, you look to your right to the door and you see someone kicking in your door. Because you're not a dummy, you brought your firearm with you, and because you're especially not a dummy, you flip on the lights. Even somebody high on methamphetamine, when they look at a gun being pointed at them, normally they turn around and run. Congratulations. If the robber or the intruder has kicked in your door, turns around and runs, you've done your job. You call 911, you wait for the police, and you give a statement. When the gentleman is later apprehended, you agree to testify against that individual. That is the most perfect form of self-defense. A lot of people will tell you, and I have heard many people say this on Facebook, if somebody ever kicks in my door, I'm going to shoot him, and I don't care if he runs out, I'm going to shoot him outside and I'm going to drag him back in. Really? That is bad advice. It's doubly bad advice when you realize what you're talking about is not self-defense, it's murder. In order to present, imminent, deadly threat. Now, in some states, Alabama, Florida, Missouri, several others, Ohio I think has recently joined this group, you do not have to retreat inside your own home. In the event you're interested, here's Alabama's law. You can put the video on pause and read it, or you can find your own state statute online at findlaw.com. So if somebody's coming in your home, you have the right to defend yourself. And just because you have the right to defend yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you should defend yourself with deadly force if the threat turns to run away. And in fact, most of the time, you simply shouldn't. But if that threat is coming toward you, if it is a present, violent, deadly threat, then you have the right to use lethal force against that threat. But this is a situation where you really need to think about this before it ever happens. You need to think about this hard and realize that you will have decisions to make in an instant on the day that this ever occurs, and you will have to make those decisions wisely because your future and your family's future depends on you making the right decision. If someone kicks in your door in the middle of the night, comes in and threatens you, and you shoot them, there is at least a fair chance that individual is going to die. And you will be in the unenviable position of having taken someone's life. Put aside for a moment the idea that you may face some kind of criminal sanction for having acted in self-defense, and think instead about the burden on you of having taken a life. Now, I've seen a lot of macho people say, it wouldn't bother me, the guy would get what he deserves. And while it may be true that the individual gets what he deserves, once you pull that trigger, once you send that bullet into someone, your life is just as dramatically changed as theirs is. Anybody who tells you different is selling you something. So, since the body cannot go where the mind has not been, if you own a firearm, you have to make the determination well in advance that if you are threatened and someone comes towards you, you will pull that trigger, because it is an awesome responsibility to bear. Now, after you have done that, the main thing that has to exist for you to have reasonable self-defense is a present, imminent, deadly threat. Someone breaking into your house at 2 o'clock in the morning is a present, imminent, deadly threat by statute in many cases and in many states. It certainly is in Missouri. It certainly is in Alabama. It certainly is in Florida. All of those states have statutes that define when it is okay to use lethal force in defense of your life and your home. But just because they define it as that, again, the decision to use force is yours, and if somebody is running away, that's a win. In addition, even though you shoot the person inside, if they run outside and fall down, how are you going to prove that you shot them inside? If the bullet went into their back, that can be a pretty bad situation for you. There is a gentleman in Utah right now who is being held on $400,000 bond because he hosted a party at his house, and he had people come that probably shouldn't have come, and 3 of them jumped on him and beat him up. 1 of them knocked him unconscious. After they knocked him unconscious, they decided to leave. As they're leaving, he wakes up, sees that they're leaving, retrieves his handgun, chases them outside, and shoots 1 of them in the back. He fires 5 times. 5 times, but only hits one person. And now he's charged with first-degree attempted murder, 5 counts of felonious discharge of a firearm, and other issues as well. Had he engaged those people while they were in his house, physically assaulting him, under Utah law, he probably would have been safe. But instead, he engaged them after they had left. Almost every state has this distinction between a present, imminent, deadly threat and an attack that's broken off and then later re-engaged. So someone comes to your house, they challenge you to a fight, and they knock you out. If you go into your house later on and get your firearm and go back out and go looking for that person and find them, and they say, you're not finished yet. Okay, let me finish the job, and then you shoot them, you are probably not going to have a valid self-defense claim because you sought them out. You are determined to be, under most states' law, the aggressor in that situation. So a present, imminent, deadly threat is the key thing in many cases for a self-defense scenario. In my next video about this subject, we'll talk a little bit about some of the statutes involved and what they mean, and how those statutes may work and may not work to give you the relief that you think you probably ought to be entitled to. Again, this is not legal advice. If you have a question about the law, particularly the self-defense law of your jurisdiction, you absolutely need to ask an attorney in your jurisdiction, preferably one who practices criminal law, preferably one who is familiar with firearms, and who knows what these kinds of issues bring to the courtroom. So again, not legal advice. It's very important that I keep saying that because I don't want somebody relying on this to their detriment. It is your job to hire an attorney if you have a legal problem and not rely on the advice of people on the internet, even well-meaning attorneys from Missouri who would very much like to help you, but because they don't have a license in your state, can't do so. If you have questions about this, please leave them in the comments down below. Otherwise, I would appreciate it if you would gently massage that like button and click on the subscribe icon and press the notification bell so that you can be notified anytime I release a video on this channel. Thank you for watching and have a terrific day.